Oh my goodness. Hello everyone and welcome once again to the morning show right here on Wire to Wire Sports. I'm your host for today and tomorrow, Mr. William Morgan, and I have my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, my man Mo. Mo, what's up?
Good morning, Will. Good morning, everybody that's joining us.
How you doing today, Mo?
I'm doing great. Always ready to talk sports. Let's get into it.
Oh, for real. That's exactly what we're gonna do. I want to add first question I want to start off, as you're seeing the title of the show this morning. The All-Star game and the format in the NBA. I hate it. I can't stand it. Are the players at fault for this particular format? And what can they do to kind of like spice things up? Because the NBA is really losing in the ratings war.
The players are at fault to a degree for sure because it had to come to this. Adam Silver, I believe, made a good faith effort to try to improve All-Star Weekend. I think he made a good faith effort to be more inclusive, to be more entertaining, and above all, be more competitive. I I appreciate his effort. I do. I appreciate what he's trying to do. I didn't I didn't like the format. And you don't want to sound like the old man get off my yard,
Yeah.
but but I my basic principle is this. It's supposed to matter if you make the All-Star team. It's a privilege and it's an honor. It's your peers, it's the sports writers, the fans acknowledging the kind of season you had. My problem was the way they formatted. You had people playing against people who weren't even NBA players. You had guys who weren't
Mhm.
all stars. I think it waters down being an all star when you're competing against guys who can't or aren't even in your league. They're not
Right.
even professional players yet. They're G leaguers. They did have some NBA players, but they're not stars. They're not all
Right.
stars.
Right.
And we already have something to highlight young up and coming talent. It's called the Rising Stars Games, right? That's the whole
Yep.
point of it. And they have the skills competitions and all those kind of things. They're already highlighting the young stars, but they're not actual all stars, and that was my problem. And yes, some of those games were competitive, and you saw guys playing a little bit harder, but the bar is really low. They played harder than they've played the last 4 or 5 years, but it's a really low bar to clear. You feel
Yes.
me? Like you and I could have stepped out there and we would have played harder. We wouldn't have looked very good, but we would have played harder.
I would have hit a couple. I would have hit like I would have hit a couple of threes.
I would have just done what they've been doing the past few years. I've been like, let me get this layup,
Oh,
but I just think he made a really good effort. I think he can tweak it, or you can simplify it. Why not just make it um the American All Stars versus the foreign born All Stars?
right.
That you know what I mean, like,
Or America versus the world.
or America. Just do it that way. America versus the world, and I think that'll be competitive. It'll have to be because this is what I promise you. If you make it that way, the European guys they play hard. They're gonna come play hard.
Boy, can
That
you
it,
imagine? Can you imagine a starting five with nothing but the Europe? Oh my gosh.
I mean, look, you can just start with the top four guys. If you look at Joker, if you look at Luca, if you look at SGA, Giannis, like just those
Mm-hmm.
four,
Mm-hmm.
and whoever you pair with them, they're going to play hard. They're
And
going to compete. They're going to make the other guys have to compete. I don't think you can incentivize guys that already have 200, $300 million contracts by saying each member of your team gets $1 million. I don't think that matters to them.
no, no.
Um, the biggest issue with competition right now in the NBA All Star game is where we are in social media, where we are when it comes to guys having their brands. Guys are more concerned about what social media will say about them if somebody crosses them up or somebody dunks on them. That's where we are in all sports. Matter of fact, I mean, it's why
Mm-hmm.
the Pro Bowl became whatever it is now, which is not good. But
Pro Bowl stop being something where they stop going to Hawaii.
yes, yeah, and I get it. Football is definitely a much higher, more collision bound sport. But you could have found a way to make it more competitive without turning it into just like a bunch of silly games. I digress. The point is with the NBA, I think Silver and his people up in the NBA offices are trying to improve upon competition. I just think they need to tweak it. You shouldn't see the way they mix the teams up. Like there was Jalen Williams was on the team, and he was on the team with a bunch of younger guys, but they weren't even. Some of those guys weren't even NBA players. They were just guys. Like I don't like that. Like
Yeah.
you should earn your way on the floor to be an all-star, to play against other all-stars.
Now I know you saw the comments of Draymond Green over the weekend about him blasting over the All-Star game format. Do you agree with Draymond?
Yeah, I do. Look, I like I said, I love that Silver and the NBA offices are trying to address it because it is a big weekend. It's a big reset for the NBA. But I think Draymond's right. You got guys out there that aren't even NBA players and they're on the floor with all-stars. Yeah, I'm not with that. I don't like that. Those guys that are on the floors with those all-stars, they're supposed to be aspiring to be good enough one day to be an all-star, not kind of have a cheat code where you're on the floor with all-stars. Like what does that say if you had done that and the G Leaguers had to beat all-star team? It didn't happen. It didn't happen, but it could have happened.
It could have.
It like I said, Silver and company are walking a fine line. I think you can tweak that. Or your idea is simpler. I love it. NBA versus the world, do that. NBA All-Stars versus the world, do that. I think that'll be a competitive game on Sunday, and I think more fans would enjoy that because, like I said, the European guys, they only know how to play hard. They only know how to play hard. I enjoyed aspects of All-Star Weekend. You know what I didn't like as a fan? I thought we got an overdose of Kevin Hart. I just
You're the first person I've heard talk about that.
Yeah, I was sick of Kevin Hart before the All-Star game was over. And another thing, and I know you saw this if you watched the All-Star game. Why all the intermissions, man? Jesus Christ. There were so many intermissions, and I don't mean like 2-minute intermissions. Like there were 20+ minute intermissions where let me stop. Let's talk about this. Like they were I get it. They were trying to make it an event. It's already an event, but you were interrupting the flow of the games by having these weird intermissions and Kevin Hart or when they did we need to honor the NBA on TNT guys. Like I love those guys. But why couldn't you honor them before the game? Or more importantly, why couldn't you honor them on the NBA on TNT? You know what I'm saying? Like, why the long intermission? Then Kevin Hart got to come out there and crack jokes that makes himself laugh. I just thought it was too much. They were trying to do too much. Maybe the best part of the All-Star weekend might have just been I thought the slam dunk was okay. I thought I don't think the 3-point shot competition was great. It seemed like it was a little, like it went flat. But I thought the slam dunk was okay. I have a lot of respect and admire what Matt McClung does. I love Matt McClung because the guy only comes out and competes his tail off every time he's out there in All-Star Weekend. I know some people were complaining that he's a G Leaguer, and I don't care in that situation because Matt McClung wouldn't exist if the best players or the stars in the NBA competed in the slam dunk competition. They don't no more. They don't. So Matt McClung exists, and he's carried the dunk contest the last 3 years. But if you don't compete, John Moran, if you don't compete, Anthony Edwards, if you don't compete, not now, but you could have, and when you were younger, LeBron James.
I blame LeBron for all this.
That's on you guys. Like, why wouldn't we have? I mean, that time has passed, but there was a time when we could have had LeBron James, Russell Westbrook. You know what I mean? Like we could have seen that. Why is it John? And I get it. Your stars, again, they're more concerned with this isn't about injury. This is about their brands. It's about social media. What they don't want to be seen doing is losing.
I blame LeBron. And the reason why I say that, I blame LeBron. I blame KD because, and I get it. Not everybody's supposed to be a leader or show leadership qualities, as Udonis Haslem said the other day. But he brought up a good point: is that leadership matters. And if you had a guy like a LeBron, if you had a guy like a KD, who took the reins kind of like Michael and Kobe did and said, I'm going to do this during All-Star weekend. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I bet you other guys will fall in line with them. But because LeBron, particularly what he did this All-Star weekend, we get in that in a minute. But when LeBron decided to stop or didn't want to compete in a dunk competition, that's when you start seeing stuff go downhill. And you brought up Ja Morant, you brought up Anthony Edwards. I think they would be great in a slam dunk competition. But we don't get that because they don't see the need. They don't see the importance of it. And I think that's because of a LeBron, because of KD are not stepping up. And not saying that KD can win a slam dunk contest, no. But you look at your older guys to sort of kind of take the reins on that, and they don't want to do it. So I think the guys behind them don't want to do it either. And it's just, and it's a shame because it hurts. It not only does it hurt the value of All-Star Weekend, but it also hurts the fans because we don't get to see what we got to see back. We're both of the older generation. We saw the 80s. We saw the 90s. We don't get to see that kind of competition that we did back then. And it really hurts. And All-Star Weekend in the NBA should be about something. It should be to show off the best of the league. We don't have that anymore. And until we get to that point, I think it's really going to hurt the NBA. And that All-Star Weekend's numbers is going to continue to go down. I ain't got no problem with the beginning of the season. I ain't got no problem after the All-Star break because after the All-Star break, cats are going to play.
Right.
They're going to play because they're going to win and win that championship. But that time, as you said, being an All-Star, you should be honored to be an All-Star. And after what LeBron did this weekend, and we saw him just sit out at the last minute, and not give somebody else the opportunity to play, okay, for the short of it, pissed me off. What do you think about LeBron James sitting out?
If you're injured and you're legitimately injured, then I get it. I have no problem with that.
That man did a video right after working out. I think with one of his kids.
My only problem is if you knew you weren't going to compete, you could have talked to Adam Silver and said, "I'm not going to play." It would have gave a guy like Norman Powell, who should be an All-Star this year,
who deserved it.
And this might be his only opportunity to be an All-Star, but he deserved it. Norman Powell would have got that call. Look, LeBron's not going to play. Can you get here? And I'm sure he would have got there ASAP. So I hate that the way he did it. He kind of cheated somebody else of an opportunity if you weren't going to compete. Anthony Edwards did a similar thing. I'm like, if you're not going to play, and they said he wasn't feeling well, that's look, again, fine. But there are guys out there, Tyrese Maxey, right? I'm just putting it out there who want to be there, who want that honor. Look, you still get the honor of Ja Morant made the All-Star game that particular year, right? But I'm talking about Tyrese Maxey could have had that opportunity. You're not going to complete. And they didn't do that. And I think that was a missed opportunity. And look, for everybody out there listening, when we say that LeBron and KD could have led the way in the slam dunk competition, I'm not talking about them doing it right now, 17, 20 plus years into it. I'm talking about they could have done that 10 years ago when they were both ultra athletic and it made sense to at least do it once because you're right. That's leadership. You do it at least once because your biggest stars should be the biggest advocates of your game. And on the All-Star weekend, that's supposed to be, you're supposed to show off the very best that the NBA has to offer. And the problem is in this current era, a lot of these guys, they want to be there. They want to join and go through all the festivities. What they don't want to do is compete. They don't want to compete.
My thing is Michael Jordan made my favorite player of all time, just to let y'all know, is Michael Jordan. If you got LeBron, that's fine. 1, 2, 1A, 1B, whatever you want to choose it, however you want to say it. Competed in the 3-point competition. No, good and damn well, he ain't got no business being in the 3-point competition. He competed. He embarrassed himself, but at least he competed.
But I like that, right?
I do too. I just
Mike
lost behind him.
Mike lost, and he took the L, knowing what people were going to say and laugh. But the point in competition is somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. You have to be willing to put yourself out there,
right?
Where there's a possibility that you lose. in the All-Star games, guys half-assed it defensively because they make it seem like, oh, if I wanted to play hard, he wouldn't just blow by me and get a dunk. Well, we won't know because you don't play hard. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like if you half-ass it, then on social media they'll go, well, he's not really trying. Like, so that's why he dunked on him. Like, right. Like, that's the problem. That I actually thought the one guy that was consistently competing on Sunday, it was Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
It was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving looked like a lockdown defender. Like, he was getting into everybody. And like I said, some of the games were more competitive.
Mhm.
But like, it's a low bar. My problem is, why do you have to bring in G Leaguers? Why do you have to let younger guys who aren't all-stars into that all-star game?
Didn't
That
back
happens.
in the day,
No,
and
go ahead.
correct me if I'm wrong, Mo. Back in the day, didn't we have all-star reserves?
Right. Correct.
We had guys who were prepared to be a reserve in case something should happen. I didn't hear such and such was an all-star reserve this year. I didn't hear that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. And that's what I would have done too. I would have had the guys that were all-star reserves to get the opportunity. Let them compete against you, right?
Right.
Like, what if I thought that I deserved to be like a Tyrese Maxey? I know Trae Young got to replace somebody, but what if Trae Young, if you feel you got a chip on your shoulder, you don't think those guys are going to play hard to show out those guys that got picked ahead of them? They're going to play hard. I think that you can have competition, but for the integrity of everything that makes sense to me, at least, I think you have to have stars playing against stars.
Yeah.
You have to have all-stars playing against all-stars, or like your idea, which I love, actually, the NBA all-stars versus the world. You can do that. Like I said, we've got rising stars for the young guys just coming into the league, or G Leaguers. I don't think they should be on the floor with an opportunity to win a tournament, which, by the way, I'll keep it 100. I was actually rooting for the teams that were predominantly G Leaguers and guys that weren't stars to win. Just to
In
teach,
spite of everything.
right? Well, look. To be fair, one of the semifinals games, they were right there, and then they made a late run to get over the hump because they were playing around. You know what I mean? That's kind of my point.
And
they started playing around and didn't take them serious, and then the game got close, and then they got serious again. That's my part about the integrity of the game. If you can blow them out, if you can dominate them because you're better, then do that.
Right.
As a fan, I would appreciate that and respect that more than let's throw a couple of lobs, let's mess around. I mean, it's not like they can beat us. I want these guys to not be afraid to lose. Just compete.
Well, I'm gonna switch things up for a second here. Going into the world of the NFL for a little bit. Wanted to ask you about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Are the Bengals wasting Joe Burrow? And also, they are looking to sign back some of their guys, and T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson and company. Are they wasting Joe Burrow? And do you trust them enough to right the ship in keeping some of their major key guys?
I don't trust their management at all or their ownership. It's one of the worst, if not the worst, ran franchise. Well, I guess you can make a toss up between them and Carolina. But I'm going to go with Cincinnati. They got a longer history of just being a badly managed franchise. No, I don't trust them. And I don't know if I want to use the word wasting Joe Burrow. I would just say that when you have a franchise quarterback like this, you do everything in your power while he's in this window to set him up for success.
Yes.
They've done a poor job. And now they've put themselves in a horrible situation where had they paid Ja'Marr Chase last year, they could have saved themselves money this year. Now if you're Ja'Marr Chase, you just came off of a triple-double season. You run the Triple Crown. You're one of the three best receivers in all of football. You're going to win all your money. And on top of that, T. Higgins, he's been wanting out. Higgins been wanting out. They're going to franchise T. Higgins. Here's the crazy part. Joe Burrow, I think, is going to go 46, something like that, against the cap. T. Higgins, if you franchise him, is another $26 million against the cap.
Jesus.
Then you have to sign Ja'Marr Chase. Then you have to sign your edge edge rusher, is it Hendrickson?
Yep. Trey Hendrickson. Mm-hmm.
So what is the likelihood that you retain all those guys? And by the way, if you go by the money, if you do the math, it doesn't matter. You're talking about 4 players taking up almost half your cap space. You gotta sign 40 something other guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's insanity.
You got enough for to sign your draft picks.
Right. That's the insanity that they've put themselves in. Here's the reality. I want to set Joe Burrow up success, but if I'm in charge of Cincinnati, I can't pay T. Higgins. I can't. I can't because of what we just talked about. You don't get rid of edge rushers. Edge rushers don't come around. And so if you're telling me a coin between T. Higgins and Hendrickson, it's not close. I'm going with the edge rusher. And I guess you'd have to go out and maybe in the draft try to find you a talented young. And there are guys out there that might surprise you. Never know, because Jamar Chase is that dynamic a number 1 receiver. I just think their management, their ownership, have put themselves in this pretzel, and I don't see a way out of it. I don't. If you're Joe Burrow, he's never said this. He's never said, I want out, I want to move on. He's trying to be the company guy, but there has to be a level of frustration because the team is not built to win now.
Right.
And I don't know if they have the front office to make the right moves in the offseason to set them up to win now. Look, we talk about the devaluation of running backs. What hurt Joe Burrow in the offense, they missed Joe Mixon.
Yep.
Joe Mixon is a really good football player, a good running back, also effective out of the backfield, terrific in pass protection, and they missed Joe Mixon. It does matter, and you can't pay everybody, but had they been smarter, Will, in how they spent their money, I don't think we'd be looking at the Bengals the way we do. Look, they finished the year strong. I'll give them that. But look at how they're built and the things they have to address in the offseason. I feel like they're headed for another one of those seasons where they start off, slow. I don't know, like 0-3 or 0-1. Yep. It's right behind the barrel, and it's wash, rinse, repeat. Behind the barrel in one of the toughest, if not the toughest division of football.
Yep. I feel for him. I really do. I really do. And
do you think Joe Burrow will ever ask for a trade?
No, because he's worried too much. I think he's worried too much about his image and what he knows what he means to that city. So I don't think that he will ever ask for a trade because of that. Now, would it shock me if he did that to a degree? Yeah, but that may be somewhere where he gets a little bit older and see the writing on the wall that this team is never going to win. Then he might say, yeah, I want a ring. Get me out of here.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking maybe Joe Burrow is interested in trying to go the route of Tom Brady and have his contract restructured to open up some space.
He could do that too.
Not. I'm not saying that he wouldn't get all of it. He would get all of his money, but it gets pushed further down the road, right? Like, yeah. But he'll get all his money. Maybe he would be open to doing something like that, because the interesting question, maybe we should ask this question: how many franchise quarterbacks, how many in the current NFL are like, no, you can mess around with my money. I don't need all of it right now.
Exactly.
If it's going to help us win, yeah, you can move my money around. I think that would be a very short list.
Yeah, me too. Like I say, I wish the best for Joe and Chase. Played on one of the greatest college football teams of all time. I don't care what people say. I don't care what people said. I was one of the greatest college football teams of all time. Let me ask you a question about the Minnesota Vikings. How do you think they address their quarterback situation?
So I do think they want to bring Sam Darnold back, but I think they already have a number in their head, what they're willing to put out there. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, Sam Darnold cost himself money.
Yeah,
he didn't finish nearly as strong as he had started and throughout the season. You also have to remember that they have JJ, and the question is JJ ready to not just is he physically ready, but is he ready to become a starting quarterback? Will there be an honest quarterback competition if he's healthy? Because if they feel like JJ's healthy and there's a quarterback competition, I feel like if JJ's healthy, I think they move off of Sam Darnold. Because if you move off of Sam Darnold, JJ's still on his rookie deal.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like you can do more things.
And that's your goal, is to win with the quarterback while he's still within
in that window. Yeah. Because once your quarterback gets that first big contract, you start losing guys, because the reality becomes you just under the salary cap. You can't pay everybody.
No.
So you take advantage of that window. Do I think JJ McCarthy is good enough a quarterback? Potentially, yes. What if they take a step back under JJ and they have a 10-win season, still make the playoffs, but set themselves up better in the future. So take a little bit of a step back to go a lot further forward. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't shock me, because to me, their offer for Sam Darnold is going to be maybe Danny Dimes money, which I think for Sam Darnold, that'd be good. That's not low ball. That's more money than they ever thought he was going to make.
Danny Dimes deal would be good for him.
Right. Look, here's the crazy part. I said Danny Dimes deal would be good for a couple of quarterbacks, and people lost their mind. I know, and now I'm talking about my own 49ers.
I don't need to go back and look at that contract.
Right. Right. I know Brock Purdy and his people are not going to take a $40 million deal, a $40 million a year deal. They're not going to take that. They're going to say, well, look at what this guy's done. He's played in a Super Bowl. He's taking you to conference. I get all that, and I'm a fan of Brock Purdy's. I don't think he's an overcomer. It's a word that Chris and I started using, but I believe it. There are certain quarterbacks that are overcomers. Those are the guys that should be paid that way. The reset the market guys. Joe Burrow's a reset the market guy. Josh Allen's a reset. Patrick Mahomes is even Lamar. He does it in a different way. That's a reset the market type of player.
Yes.
You could have said if a younger version of Stafford would be in that category.
Yes.
I don't think Brock Purdy's an overcomer. I don't think he's that guy. Like they made the argument that this person made the argument that Brock Purdy, he's not that guy the same way Jalen Hurts not that guy. And I was like, no, that's not the same at all.
That's different.
It's different. Jalen Hurts I think always was more talented than Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
And
just off the physical traits alone.
Right. Was always more talented. You can't go RPO with Brock Purdy. You can if you want to get him killed, you can. But my point is, I think Brock Purdy of course he surprised us, Will. The guy was literally the last pick in the draft.
Yep.
How many guys that are the last pick in the draft become franchise quarterbacks?
Yep.
I think he's become a very good quarterback. I don't think he's a reset the market quarterback.
And listen, there's nothing wrong with being in a hall of the very good.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
I sign up for it, by the way. You can be in the hall of very good, and if you don't turn the ball over,
yep.
you could probably take your team on a deep run, and Purdy's done that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that's where there's going to be a divide. I'm sure John Lynch is going to go, we love you. We appreciate you. We think you're worth $40 million a year contract. And he's going to go, man, that's what they gave Danny Dimes. And John Lynch is going to go, well, that's because the Giants are dumb. You're better than him, but you're actually worth $40 million. He was never worth $40 million. The Giants were just dumb.
Yep.
So I think that's the divide. I want Brock Purdy back as the Niners quarterback, but my gut tells me he won't be coming back if he and his agents intend to reset the market by getting a 60 or $60 million a year. That's not going to happen. Not with John Lynch, and it shouldn't.
No, I agree. Where do you think Matthew Stafford ends up?
That's interesting because here's the thing. Everybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers. Mike Tomlin should be talking about Matthew Stafford.
I agree.
That's who you should be talking about. Go get that. Go get that guy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the more talented throwers of football, a proven quarterback.
Yep.
Matthew Stafford not only makes he immediately makes your receiving room better than they are. Yep. Because he's going to put the football where it need. Like he will set them up for success. Like, and he changes your defense. Defenses are not going to come for Matthew Stafford because he can read defenses and make you pay.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matthew and look, he's an older quarterback, but he's younger than Aaron Rodgers.
Yep,
And right now today, I'm talking about right now today, he's a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers.
Something tells me, Mo, and I could be wrong. And I could be wrong about this. I don't think Pickens finishes his career as a Steeler.
Oh, I guarantee that. I guarantee that. I guarantee that.
He's gonna finish his career as a Steeler.
No, I guarantee he has a lot of that Antonio Brown trait in him. You know what I mean? Like always got to say something. Kind of a complainer. Like I'm with you. I don't think he finishes his career there. Look, and he's a talented player, but I'm one of those people that think there's no question he's the best receiver on the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a number one.
No,
I don't think he's a number one. He's their number one, but I don't think he's an actual number one.
He could be somebody a good two on number 3.
He'd be a hell of a 2, but the problem with it is he'd be a hell of a 2, but that attitude and all that comes with him too. Yep. Now, I don't know if a lot of franchises are going to sign up for that.
Yeah, me either. All right, I want to ask you this right now. We'll put you on the spot. Right now, in my too early section of the show, right now, who are your top 5 Super Bowl contenders?
Well, I'm one of those. It's weird because I saw ESPN and they didn't have them number 1. I got the Eagles number 1. I got the Eagles number. They're defending champions. Why wouldn't? And they're not one of those teams that went on a flukish run. They were dominant. They were the best team in football, and they highlighted that in the Super Bowl. So I've got the Eagles 1. This might seem crazy. I got the Chiefs 2.
Wow.
I have the Chiefs 2 because I think that Andy Reid and their management, I think they're going to go out and make the moves that they need to make to bolster their offensive line and, more importantly, get more playmakers out there. Like I thought Kareem Hunt was solid for them. I think Pacheco's a really good running back.
Yes.
But I don't think Pacheco's a great running back. He's not a 1,500 year. He's not that kind of running back. He's a hard running guy, but he's not a top 10 back. He's not a star back.
No.
I think they go Pacheco's the kind of guy that you have on your roster. He makes winning plays. Like he will help you win games. He will impact the game. But
he's not somebody you need to load the box up for every time.
He's not. No, you're not playing. You're playing your base defense against Pacheco.
Yep.
But my point is, I think they need to go out and get more playmakers on that side of the football. And I think more importantly, you address the offensive line. You address the offensive line, and you get another playmaker. Maybe they attempt to go out and get Rashee Rice is coming back, and he's their number 1. But I don't know if he's the number 1. He's their number 1. Right. Maybe they go out and pursue a number 1 and pair him with Rashee Rice and Worthy, and suddenly it bolsters that receiving core. Not to mention, I've heard them talk about what about them going to Atlanta to pursue the young tight end in Atlanta,
Kyle Pitts.
Yes, because Kyle Pitts is a tremendous vertical threat, and it seemed like his career started like it was on a rise, and it's kind of stunted. I guess you find out whether it's their system or it's him, but Kyle Pitts I think he runs like a 4.5.
Hell of an athlete, that's for sure.
Right. It's and that's the scary part. It's interesting you said that. Yes, we've seen it where we looked at guys and he's a hell of an athlete, so he's gonna be a star, and it didn't quite pan out. But I think that if you're Kansas City, you want Travis Kelce back, but I think Travis Kelce's gonna come back in maybe a lesser role.
Right.
Because I don't think he's not what he was.
No.
So yeah, I got the Chiefs 2. I've got the Bills 3. I've got the Ravens 4. I'm trying to think if there's an NFC team other than the Eagles that I like.
Number 5 is kind of hard.
A lot of people want to say Detroit, but I'm like, when you lose both of your top coordinators who are now head coaches,
that's gonna be tough.
I think you might take a step. They're going to make the playoffs, but I don't know if they're going to be the same team. Number 5 is tough.
I know who it ain't.
Who's that?
Dallas Cowboys.
Oh yeah, easy. We don't have to go there. We don't have to go there. It's not.
It ain't gonna make me popular in Dallas, but it ain't gonna be the Cowboys.
I'm going to say, you know what? Just because it's a Hail Mary throw, I'm going to say I'm going to say the Texans. I'm going to say the Texans.
You know what though? And the thing that makes that pick kind of interesting, it's not like they don't have the defense to do it. Because I think they have a good up and coming defense. Um, I gotta see a little bit more offensively and see if they can correct what's going on with CJ Stroud.
Yes.
If they can do that, that pick is not too far off.
I think that the key to them going to the next level, one, yes, you want to keep your receivers healthy, keep that receiving core healthy. So this was a year where Stroud had to the league adjusted to Stroud, right? And I think this offseason he's got to put in the work and he's got to adjust to the league. He didn't look bad last year, but he didn't look like a dominant player that he had the previous
line
season.
Really didn't help either.
This is true. They don't have a great offensive line, and that's something they have to address. But I thought that Stroud was guilty of holding on to the football too long. Like, what's that line they say about a bad habit that a quarterback can pick up? And this is young or old is when they start seeing the rush.
Yeah,
and Stroud to me,
Patrick in the Super Bowl.
Yes, Stroud was seeing the rush versus looking downfield, and he was bracing himself to be hit more versus trying to get rid of the ball or find somebody. Which takes me back to Matthew Stafford, by the way. I think he's the best quarterback in football because he will hang in there and get blasted, but he'll get rid of the football. He'll find somebody. So, yeah, I agree with you. If the Texans, they actually make a practical – they make sense to me, Will, to be top 5 because everything's there for them to go on a deep playoff run.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. How do you look at Anthony Richardson with the Colts?
So when he came out, I think most people would agree they had him as a project. They acknowledge how gifted an athlete he is, freakish athlete. Mm-hmm. But in terms of playing the position of quarterback, he's a project. Watching him play, he is in fact a project. Mm-hmm. He's a freakish athlete, can throw the football a mile, incredible arms talent, but he can't read defenses. He can't make the tough touch passes. He struggles with throwing a swing pass. Like there's little nuances to the position of quarterback that he struggles with. I'm not saying that he can't improve upon that because that's the whole point of have quarterback coaches. That's the whole point of off-season workouts. Yes. So I don't think the Colts are going to give up on him, and nor should they. But because he's such a project, and Jim Irsay is the kind of owner that he is, I feel like this coming season is it's weird to say this, but I think this is make or break for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I agree. I agree too. Me and you talked about this a little bit on Facebook. I'm gonna go switch to the world of pro wrestling because I do want to touch it before we get out of here. Got about 21 more minutes here on the morning show on Wire to Wire Sports. Touch on a little bit of pro wrestling real quick. Michelle McCool got announced to the Hall of Fame a couple of days ago. People call me a hater, but I don't really see her as a Hall of Fame talent. And granted, she was the time period that she wrestled was during the first run of the Divas, so I understand that point. But I don't get it because most Hall of Famers have a definitive match, something that puts them in the land of the greatness. That they're being honored for. Can't nobody name me a definitive Michelle McCool match. She didn't really take off, in my opinion, until she started teaming up with Layla. And where Layla at?
Correct.
Just saying. Now, you've seen as much wrestling as I have, if not more. Do you think Michelle McCool being a Hall of Famer is correct?
I don't think she had a Hall of Fame career. I think she had moments as a performer. And you're right. The time that she was a performer, the Divas title was different from where we are today, where the women are being credited more for being actual wrestlers and competitors. And I'm not knocking that. I just, you know what it was when they was out there. I'm just you know what it was. I think she was entertaining. I don't think she had a Hall of Fame career. I think that she's going to be in the Hall of Fame because of her husband's relationship to the powers that be. I think that's more of it. And I'm not hating on that. When you got that kind of juice, you can put your wife in the Hall of Fame. Why not use it? So I'm not hating on it. I don't hate that she's going in, by the way. But if you're asking me as a wrestling fan, do I think she should be in the WWE Hall of Fame? I'd say no.
I think she's bring up someone else, and I think she is Hall of Fame worthy. But I thought Beth Phoenix got in a little too soon. I thought there was some other ladies who have heat with the company, but with Vince being gone, I thought we would have looked past that. And I'm speaking of Melina and Victoria. I thought those ladies should have been in before Michelle McCool. But again, they have heat with the company, so that might be what's holding them back. But I thought with Vince being gone, that heat would kind of like be lessened or go away, and go ahead and put those ladies in for what they did. But apparently I'm wrong. It looks like they're doing this more as what you said, more as a undertaking, calling in a favor, and getting her in, because every Michelle McCool match, with the exception of maybe 2, you could really hear a pin drop until she started teaming up with Layla. Then that's when she took off, in my opinion.
That's a good point. I'll be honest. I remember her as a performer. There were times when Michelle McCool was wrestling where I get to go get something to eat.
Yeah,
I'm like, and on the live shows there was very little reaction. She just didn't really move the needle as a performer. She took off with Layla. I agree to a degree, but was it enough overall to have a Hall of Fame career? I think she's one of those people that is on the fence, and her husband moves the needle.
Yeah. That's definitely the reason why I think she's getting it in. Heading back over to the NBA and your Los Angeles Lakers, the Mark Williams trade for Dalton Knecht got rescinded. What do you think of your Lakers' chances now and maybe making a final run with that move? Keep in mind they did sign Alex Len.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think their chances for a finals run would be now without that definitive big man?
I think when you have Luka Doncic, when you have LeBron James, and Austin Reeves, I think the Lakers have a puncher's chance. I think the Lakers are one of the matter of fact, I would say there's a couple teams in the West that, depending on the matchups, there's a path for the Lakers to get to the Western Conference Finals. My problem with them in the bigger picture, though, is this. Even with the firepower that you have between those two players and their basketball IQs and their abilities, the Lakers are not one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. They were a middle-of-the-road defensive team with Anthony Davis, who's a tremendous defender. They no longer have him. And we just talked about they signed Alex Len. I think that's where the Lakers could get hurt. If their offense stalls in any way,
they're in trouble.
They're in trouble because the other team's going to get theirs. And the question is, in the postseason, when the floor shrinks and it becomes more about half-court execution, can the Lakers, A, get stops, and B, can they end the possessions by securing the rebounds? Because they don't have a lot of size now. They're not a big team.
Small team.
And Jackson Hayes and Alex Len, they don't really strike fear into the hearts of NBA centers or anybody that's going to the rim. You're like, oh no, Jackson Hayes is there. I don't think that's what people think. The Lakers are good. Like I said, Luka and LeBron give you a puncher's chance, and dependent on the matchups. But I don't think this year they go on a deep run. Not this year. I think there's some things they can do in the offseason to bolster up the roster. But this current season, I think a lot would have to turn their way for them to go on a deep run. I don't think this team defensively is going to be able to get enough stops. And I don't necessarily like their bench depth. I know a lot of people keep telling me, like, we got guys that can play defense. Right, but all the guys that can play defense can't play offense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the problem. And when LeBron takes a break or when Luka takes a break, Or what does that even look like when they're both off the floor? Like, can you even afford to have both of them off the floor in the postseason? I think not.
I agree. They're going to be hurting. They're a smaller team up front now. They're going to be hurting for size. I think teams with definitive big men can definitely take advantage of that. And both of them going to have to guard Joker at some point. And that's a win-win for Denver.
Right. And remember, even when Anthony Davis guarding Joker, that's not a thing. And normally when the Lakers play, LeBron usually guards like the guy who's the least offensive-minded player, right? To rest him, which makes sense. Well, now LeBron can't do that because you got to do that for Luka.
Yep.
You got to let Luka guard the guy that's like the least offensive player, like offensively talented player. Like, and look, teams already hunt Austin Reeves. If they do teams they hunt Austin Reeves. But now you're gonna hunt Austin Reeves and you can hunt Luka. You can take it like that. That is a struggle. Luka's greatest defense, and this has always been true, is his offense.
Yep.
If Luka's giving it to you and wearing you down, that's how he offsets what he doesn't do on defense. I just don't know on the perimeter. Like we talk about what they can't do with their bigs. On the perimeter, who are the Lakers' lockdown defenders?
Nobody.
Correct. Nobody
at all. All right. Let me ask you this. Do you see any team in the NBA, East or West, that can make an impressive second half run? Do you see any team that can do that?
In the West, like I like what Denver has done, and they've gotten a rotation there. I still think they don't have as much depth as they had, but if Jamal Murray is going to play like he's played recently, looking like the Jamal Murray of the past, like when Jamal Murray's playing at an all-star or almost superstar level to be able to coexist with Joker, Denver becomes one of the scariest teams. When Jamal Murray is playing with that kind of swagger and he's giving it to guys, they're a completely different team. I know that a lot of people look at OKC, and I get it. They've been the best team in the regular season, but I think they were the best team in the regular season last year. I think Oklahoma City has everything in place to go to the finals, but there's something inside me that says that they're not going to the finals.
You don't think they got that dog in them?
I think SGA has that dog in him. The question is, what about the other guys?
Right.
What about J-Dub? What about Chet? Like, because we didn't see it in the playoffs last year.
No.
And until I see it in the playoffs this year, I don't know. The biggest question for OKC is, are they one of those teams that's built for the regular season?
I think SGA does. I think Caruso does too.
Sure, Lou Dort's got a dog in him. I mean, but I need J-Dub. I need Chet Holmgren to have that kind of dog. And look, I think that's why bringing in a guy like Hartenstein is so important, because Hartenstein gives you nothing but, I mean, he's all work. He's all effort. That's going to help. But what happens if they match up with Denver? That's going to be interesting. I'd love to see that matchup. Or what if a healthy Dallas comes to town with AD, Kyrie, and some of those role players? It's going to be interesting. I get why they're the favorites. They deserve to be the favorites for the season they've had. And it's set up, right? SGA is probably going to win MVP. So everything says the needle's pointing up. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm simply saying there's the regular season and there's the playoffs. Right. And until they show me in the playoffs, I don't know if they're going to the finals. My gut feeling is they're not.
How do you think? How are you looking at the Knicks? How are you looking at their second half?
So a lot has been said about Mitchell Robinson coming back. They're talking about Mitchell Robinson like he's Bill Russell. When Mitchell Robinson come back, we're gonna start locking. Yes, Mitchell Robinson will help because Cat can play the 4.
Yes, instead of 5.
Yep. Robinson can patrol the paint, be the rim protector, and clean up the glass. I'm good with that idea. But Mitchell Robinson has a history of not staying healthy. And even if he does, I don't know if that makes them a contender among, at least they're a contender, but do I think the Knicks can beat the Cavaliers or the Celtics? I don't.
Me neither.
I don't think they can beat either team. I think Mitchell Robinson helps them because this year the Knicks have been terrific offensively. Defensively, they've been nothing like a Tom Thibodeau team that usually the identity is defense. They don't really lock down defensively. Getting Mitchell Robinson back helps, but if the guys on the perimeter, Josh Hart, OG, if they're not locking down, if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I just think that the Knicks are a really good team. I don't see there's a possibility, right? You can always say, so you're telling me there's a chance. There's a chance, Will, but do I think they can? They what they need is they need Boston and Cleveland to knock each other off. Somebody needs to knock. You know what I mean? Yeah. They need one of them to do them a solid to give them that opportunity, because I'm not even 100% sure the Knicks could beat the Bucks in a series. Not a healthy Bucks. I don't know.
Right. Hey man, I need Gene's help on this. So I wish Gene was here. I'm in the mindset that the process in Philly is over. Do you think the process is over in Philly, or do you think they make the move to continue the process?
Yeah, the process is outdated. They got to get rid of that process. It's a horrible process. That is some bad meat. It's been on the shelf too long. Like that's when you go to the grocery store and you're like, I can't believe this steak is only $2. Like, there's a reason it's $2.
Oh man.
I'm just saying. Think about what they did. They got it right drafting Embiid. They got it right at the time drafting Simmons. But they messed up on Jahlil Okafor. My God, who told them to draft Markelle Fultz? Who told them to do that? No one told me. Like the process was failing and nobody really talked about it. But think about this. In the Markelle Fultz draft, instead of Markelle Fultz, you could have drafted Jason Tatum.
Facts.
You could have drafted Jason Tatum.
Facts.
So when you think about it, the process was failing a long time ago. It worked good enough to make you relevant, but it never worked good enough to get you to a conference finals.
Right.
They haven't played in the conference finals. Right. And Joel Embiid, I know the birth certificate says 29 or 30, but he moves around like he's 40 sometimes, and not a young 40.
Yeah.
How do you not move away from a guy in an interview, lets the reporter know, I'm facing another surgery. I'm going to have another surgery, and it's going to be a lengthy rehabilitation period. He's forewarning you that going into next season, another surgery, dude. Shut this dude down. Shut this dude down.
And still collecting a check, by the way.
Correct.
On the 1st and the 15th, still cashing in a check.
Correct. So
stole more money than Lloyd Daniel from the Spurs back in the day.
But if you're Daryl Morey, how do you not shut this guy down? Have him go get the surgery, right? Go get the surgery so you can be healthy for next season. And when you're healthy, trade that dude. Trade him and start the rebuild. And the rebuild don't have to be a long rebuild because you already got Tyrese Maxey to build around. That's your guy now, Tyrese Maxey. I don't know what you do with the Paul George contract because you ain't gonna be able to get that away. But you have to move on from Joel Embiid. The process is done. It's been done. What is that line? I think Barkley always goes, the operation was a success, but the patient still died. Like I think they did a great job of drafting two franchise building players, but Ben Simmons completely shattered mentally in the Atlanta series a few years back, and he's yet to recover from that. And Embiid physically has just stayed broken down.
Hold on now, because you just mentioned Ben Simmons. Now, hold on now. We saw him the other night have a pretty decent game. If Ty Lue can get anything out that man, is Ty Lue Coach of the Year?
Coach of the decade. I had this conversation with somebody, and I said, you forget because he did it. He made it look so easy. Ben Simmons averaged 16, 8, and 8. 16, 8, and 8, and was an all NBA defender. And he did that without being a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and so when he had the breakdown and he's had the injuries, I even with the Nets, I had a low bar. I said, What if Ben Simmons, he's not 16-8-8 no more? What if he's 10-6-6? That's still a good player.
Mm-hmm.
If Ty Lue can pull that out of him, you're right. And by the way, I watched that game and I was like, wow, this looks kind of like old Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
If Ty Lue can get anything out of Ben Simmons to where he looks close to what he was, yeah, Ty Lue is going to be coach of the decade. That he will have pulled out the old Ben Simmons. And I think on that team, on the Clippers, who've been good this year, but they don't have championship aspirations. Nobody thinks the Clippers are title contenders.
No.
But I think that it gives them what I would call like it's almost like they made a trade and picked up a player who can be a big rotation piece for them. If Ben Simmons can be a good rotation piece, we're not even talking about star, but just a guy who can go out, put up numbers and be effective. Ty Lue got to get a raise. He got to get a raise. Ben Simmons to the Sixers has made, to the Clippers, has made the Clippers suddenly kind of interesting just because you want to see what happens to Ben Simmons.
Right. And how many times have we seen it in pro sports? All it takes sometimes is a change of environment, a change of scenery, and all of a sudden the player ain't hurt no more. The player's attitude is better, and they go out and they really perform. And we saw that the other night. All right, we have within our remaining time here 4 minutes here on Coffee and Sports in the morning here on Wire to Wire Sports. Mo, let's go ahead and close everything out.
Thank you guys for joining Will and I this morning. Appreciate you. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you, family.
All right, everyone. My name is William Morgan, host of this show for today. Also, we'll be back tomorrow with Mo here on Wire to Wire Sports. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I want you guys to have a great day and stay safe.